A winner never quits and a quitter never wins. Just keep going. Always start what you finish. Now, on the surface, this sounds like great advice, and it partially is, but it doesn't really tell the whole story of success or success in a financial journey. Hey, I'm Adam if you're new here, and we talk everything from personal development, finance, travel, just a wealth of stuff. But today I really want to get into the fact that we spend a lot of time talking about getting started and persevering, and not really enough time about quitting, knowing when to quit, and how to quit effectively. In this video, I want to share some of the ways that quitting completely changed my finances and allowed me to level up at a pace that I wouldn't have been able to if I didn't get this into my head, but also share some tips in terms of questions that you can ask yourself, some that I ask myself when I'm thinking about quitting something, right? When I'm thinking about bringing something to an end, typically in order to start something new. So let's just get into it. The first way that quitting just changed my finances completely is that you don't know what you don't know, right? In a perfect world, we'd all have hindsight and be able to see that this is going to work out and that's not going to work out. But that's not how life works. And so every time I wanted to start something new, anytime anyone wants to start something new, there's a level of uncertainty. But the key thing is, if you don't get comfortable with the idea of quitting and being able to quit, you're more reluctant and less likely to ever start anything, right? Because that fear of being locked in, of starting a financial journey, a career, a business, cripples you, because the idea of ending it, if it need be, seems impossible, seems something like you can't even reconcile. Just one example from my own life is my lifting guide. I was sitting on that thing for a long time before I actually released it, despite the fact that people were asking, despite the fact that I put so much effort into it. And I was worried about all these things like, what if it's not quite right? Or, what if people don't like it? People don't respond well to it? All of this myriad of things that could go wrong, and that, it might not just work out. And it wasn't until the fact that I was like, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, you could just stop it. Like, you could just stop selling the guide. You could just stop putting it out there. There are so many things that you could have just done to just end that. That meant that it's okay to just put it out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You don't know until you try. But just being able to accept that if it doesn't go okay, I can just, say, all right, I've tried it. It wasn't for me. Move on. This ability to be able to quit and walk away happens at different stages. Like, it could even be the fact that you decided in an interview process that actually this job isn't right for me. You reserve the right to quit the interview process at that point. Or, okay, I'm into my career in a year, in maybe 2 years in, and I'm realizing this really isn't for me. Like, this just isn't working out, right? But perhaps you don't ever start because you're so fearful that you won't be able to walk away. You won't be able to quit that path. We can't possibly know the outcome of everything, and especially in a financial journey. But given that you have researched to your full capacity, you have tried to explore the situations, all the possible outcomes, at some point you just have to go for it. And you don't know what you don't know, which means you don't know what the outcome of that launch is going to be, or that career path, or anything like that. Despite what us tech girls say, or the finance bros, or the entrepreneurs, anything, right? Your pathway to financial freedom or to, financial success is going to be yours, and will require trial and error and trying and potentially quitting. The second thing I want to talk about is the fact that progress requires sacrifice. When I first started my tech journey, my mentor, if you'd like, one of the first things he said to me is, you're probably going to have to move jobs every 1 to 2 years to see the growth that you want. Both the financial growth that you want in terms of your pay, compensation, but also the challenge of the career itself and the skills that you want to build and develop. And at first I was kind of taken aback because I literally just started and you were already talking to me about like quitting and, ending this stuff. But the more I looked at it and the more I looked at people's careers, the more I could see that sometimes the biggest jumps occurred, the biggest jumps in terms of salary, in terms of the learning curve, in terms of the skills they adopted. Being able to push to that next step required quitting a zone of comfort to get to this other level. The thing is, we can outgrow situations, careers, products, companies, business ideas, right? Like, we may have exhausted everything we can from that particular situation, and now the time has come where in order to progress, we have to let that thing go, right? Like, without letting it go, there's no way to see the growth financially, career-wise, business-wise that you need in your life. There are countless examples of successful people who, entrepreneurs who quit uni because they was like, this isn't going to help or be conducive with my growth right now. It's not for me. Or, people in careers who decided, actually, I'm gonna have to leave this company. We've tried to work through some stuff and it's not worked out. Or, you know, I think I've come to the logical conclusion or apex of this particular situation. It's time to move on. Or even tech companies that have products and product lines and they decide, actually, this is kind of it for us. Like, we can't really take this any further. We've outgrown this product. It's time to get to the next level. And my mentor was right. In order for me to see that tripling of salary with one jump, the changing in the type of skills that I was able to adopt, the responsibilities I was given, it required that I moved from my last job to this new job, right? That jump there changed so much for my career development, my career path. But it required me to quit what was potentially quite a comfortable zone or comfortable position to get to this new point. And the final thing I want to talk about in terms of quitting and financial success is that the freedom to quit is a sign of evolution and can bring about changes that otherwise could not exist. Often it's not the act of quitting in itself that is so powerful, but the knowledge that you can quit and still be comfortable, right? Quitting and being in a stressful situation is not freedom in itself, right? Ultimately, a lot of what we're trying to achieve with financial journeys and financial success, I know this is the case for myself, is options. The option to work this job or to work another job or to start this business or to not start this business or to maybe bring out this product or not that product, right? Like, it's options that I can walk away from this and be secure to an extent in the knowledge that there is something else there for me. And it's really interesting. Have you ever noticed the way people who have options move? They have a freedom about them. They're often willing to take risks and therefore get rewards as well. And it all kind of links into the abundance mindset versus, you know, the scarcity mindset. And as well as it is about how you think about things, it is of course about putting things in place in a physical sense so that you have options, right? So whether it be multiple streams of income, exploring the way that you can use your skills to help people in certain ways, or to produce certain things, or to give certain information, right? Like, abundance comes from both the thinking and the actual physical manifestation of these things. Then you can start to move very differently and away from this fear, this constant sense of, I can't quit or I can't walk away from this particular thing, into, yes, this may be a good option for me right now, but I know if that it wasn't and things came about in a way that was no longer conducive with me, I can walk away and I'm okay with that. Now, given all of that, I'm still not an advocate of quitting, you know, willy-nilly. And a lot of the things that I've achieved, if I'd quit when things got rough or got hard, like even YouTube or, you know, my boot camp, my tech boot camp or anything like that, I would not have got to the stage I am. And that's the case for a lot of people in a lot of our journeys. So these are some of the questions that I think are really useful to ask if you feel like you're on the verge of quitting, or you're thinking that that might be your next step in order to, you know, evolve financially or even in any other sense. Now, this only works if you can be completely honest with yourself, but here are the questions. Have you reached the logical apex of this situation, right? Have you extracted all that you can from it, whether it be financial, whether it be connections, whether it be knowledge, whether it be, you know, confidence? Have you got all that you can out of this? Because if the answer is yes, then you may really feel like there is no other option but to quit and move on to the next stage in order again to see that growth. But perhaps you answer no and realize that maybe it's not quitting that you need to do, but start to approach the situation from a different angle so that you can exploit these things from the situation itself. The next question is, does this particular situation run counter to my long-term goals? Right? Often we have to kind of endure things in the short term in order to see what we want in the long term, right? Which is one thing. But if what you're doing right now is actually damaging to your long-term goals, right, and to what you want to achieve in the future, then perhaps it is time to quit or to re-navigate that particular situation in order to get to where you're trying to get to. The next question, and perhaps one of the most important ones, is this feeling temporary? Right? Are there external factors that are affecting the way I feel and are not reflective of the actual situation, such as my career, right? Maybe things are going wrong in your relationships or, you know, your physical environment, right? And those are impacting the way you feel generally, and that's kind of seeping in to how you feel about your financial journey, right? Because if that is what's going on, then it's not necessary that you need to quit that part of your financial journey to go on to the next thing or change careers or change products. It's the other things that you probably should be spending more time trying to resolve and get into a healthy place. Because often we kind of let things, as it's hard to do, overlap, and we start to make decisions not based on logic and the next logical step, but how we're feeling in general. The next question is, what is the negative consequences of me quitting and how can I mitigate against these, right? So if it is the fact that you feel like you have got everything you can out of this particular job and you're not going anywhere. Perhaps you've spoken to management and they're not really trying to move you anywhere, or you know, you've tried this product, you've been trying it for a while, it's just not really working in the market, or it's not taking, and it's time to go. Well, how can you mitigate against this? In terms of career, it may mean lining up your next job before you quit, right? Securing that next step before you go anywhere else. It may mean that you put away money, right? You give yourself a runway so that if you're going to try something else by quitting this thing, you've got the space and the financial runway to try this thing for as much time as needed. The next question, and it really links if there's other people involved, is if I am going to quit, how can I do this in the way that is most amicable and potentially advantageous to myself and those around me? So if you're quitting a job, for example, burning bridges is not the way forward, right? Like, I would never advocate for just burning bridges and just ending situations, especially ones that are to do with career, business, money, investments, in a bad way where possible. So how can you, end this on a positive note, right? Are there things that you can do to make perhaps the other person or people's lives easier in this transition, right? Are there things that you can exchange to help benefit both of you? And just thinking about that can kind of smooth out your journey into the next stage and also help you keep your connections intact. And I guess the final thing, and it deals with emotion and psychology, because these two things are so interlinked with how we make financial decisions and how we operate, that you can't ignore them, is how would you feel if you did quit, emotionally and psychologically? List everything good, everything bad. And how would you feel if you stayed? Again, objectively thinking about the good and the bad. How would I feel if I stayed in this situation? So those are kind of the questions, and I hope they may help you if you are kind of at a crossroads. They've definitely helped me, those questions, but yeah, that's it. Quitting is a superpower, I feel like, but knowing when to quit and how to quit in the best way is a whole thing in itself, right? Sometimes it is about sticking things out and persevering, and other times it is about being able to walk away to get to the next logical step. That's everything in this video, and I will see you in the next one.